Sunglasses on.
Really?
We are in full compliance, Mr. Lamb. Yes.
That's what we want to be. It's got to be just this part now.
That's right. I wonder if you can do the facial.
It's okay, we try.
With a mask on, so that whenever you, right now, in these times, then you'll be like,
like this.
yeah.
I did like.
Okay. I thought that's why you might have been asking. Yeah, I think so.
We might have a chance.
We do. We might.
Yeah. Better do it this year. Right?
Yes, sir.
Find everybody gets supplied.
Guess we thought you were calling it to order.
Not yet. It's not 5:30.
Exactly.
According to my little machine here. So we need to extend
They're
the
giving
time.
me a hard time.
Uh-oh.
Question 9.
It doesn't sound like we're gonna have time for questions. I see what you're doing. You make a longer presentation so there's no time for questions.
She always says, I just have just a real short presentation. 47 minutes
And
long.
on slide 20, you'll notice here in the fine print.
All the rest of us, until we stay in our time.
It's too loud. Enough time.
Last time I had 3 slides, but you all were very interested. So
Yeah.
we had conversation.
So we just have one slide tonight?
We don't have any slides
Ooh,
tonight.
Oh, that's the,
So now it's just
oh
free
boy,
flow.
oh boy.
There's nothing to keep wrong.
Yeah, no.
But I learned from pictures. Picture books.
Did you put the celebration stuff up there? Or was... I got it. Yes, it's in mine.
I put one on each of those questions.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry? Oh, I didn't even know she was coming.
We opened it back up.
We'll make it up during Amy's time.
We could start with celebrations, though. We do have some celebration.
Well, I've got 5:30 now, so we can call the meeting to order.
Wow. Oh, that's better.
All right, let's call the meeting, February 4th meeting to order, and welcome our small group. And Mr. Wiggins say we have some celebrations, so let's celebrate.
We do. And they're not going to be here in person, but we're going to tell you some things that have been going on. First off, there's congratulations to our gifted and talented teachers, Tina Reichman, Janice Gregory, Michaela Newton, Stephanie Harper, and Yumia Fullerton. And I think you have some information up there with their picture. Arkansas Gifted and Talented Education have awarded them with the Challenger Award. This award is given for their innovation, perseverance, and commitment in meeting the needs of gifted and talented students, both on-site and online during this school year. So very nice award for our group there.
And that's a program kind of recognition.
I believe that is, yes. And then we have a notification from the Department of Education that went out to all schools this week. And on the second page of that, our high school is complimented first for their efforts to encourage students to enroll in high school computer science courses. We were one of 6 schools across the state to be recognized for that. And then below that, we are receiving $5,000, the high school, Silent Springs High School, for having the largest percentage increase of students enrolled in computer science courses. So we had a big increase at our high school this year, and they recognized us as one of 3 school districts to receive money for that down there. So I want to bring that to your attention. And then the last piece, signing day was I believe it was February the 3rd. Julie, is that correct? Okay. And we had 3 students that signed letters of intent to participate in college athletics that day. McKenna Thomas for volleyball, and Sam Jackson, soccer, and Mady Race for soccer. So congratulations to them. We hadn't had celebrations for a while, so we went looking for some things on our website that we could report to you that was good news.
I'm assuming that Valerie King is still over gifted and talented and
Yes, ma'am.
deserves some recognition.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. Valerie is over gifted and talented as well as other things now in our central office, but she heads up our gifted and talented program and does a wonderful job. So that award, even though it doesn't mention her, it's her department. So congratulations to her as well. Yes, ma'am.
That's some good stuff, Evan. That's nice. Yeah, that's positive. Comments from patrons?
None tonight?
Apparently not, since they can't come in the door. All right, maybe let the minutes show we have an established quorum. And the first item would be to approve the minutes of our regular board meeting of January 14th.
Motion to approve minutes for January 14th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we'll take us to reports, and Mr. Wiggins, you are up first.
This is one of your favorite times of the year, every 2 years, when we get to report on some of the legislative issues that we are concerned about at the state level. Travis is our legislative liaison for the board, and we've built a little spreadsheet of the laws that we are tracking. And I have given Travis access to that, and I've even put Travis's name by a few of them.
You know how I love spreadsheets.
So anyway, and I can share that with you all too. I haven't thought about that, but I can share that with all of you all. And you can actually look up, I've got links where you can look up the actual law, and I've got a little synopsis of what it is. But I'm going to highlight some of these this evening. Not all of them by any means. There is House Bill 1101 that deals with the number of signatures to petition a board meeting. It is in law now that if you have 50 patrons of your school district sign a petition for a special board meeting to talk about something that they would like to talk about, they can do so, and we would have a board meeting. This law would change that to 50 petitioners or 1%, whichever is bigger, so that in a large school district, 50 may be a very, very, very small percentage of their patrons. So anyway, we're tracking that one. We are for that, I think. House Bill 1102 changes board training requirements. It adds safety and discipline, school safety and discipline to the things that you would need to be trained on. It also changes some reporting requirements, and there's some specifics in there that Bambi is looking at.
Is that yearly, or is that?
I think it would be one time after your first term. I believe that's the way it's written. 1104 would say that the commissioner does not have to approve a millage election. He actually has to sign off on a millage election right now, the Commissioner of Education, but he doesn't, the law doesn't give him the authority not to. So it's just a token step. So they're trying to get rid of that. There's 1151, which would suspend school ratings for this year. So we would not get an A, B, C, D, F based on test scores and all of the other matrix or all of the other indexes that they use for that. We think that that's going to pass if it has not already. I don't think that they've heard that one yet. House Bill 1157 would increase a teacher tax deduction to $500 for all of our teachers, which would be a good thing. House Bill 1173 would require the Commissioner of Education to be an educator in the state of Arkansas with some further stipulations about time served. The AAEA and we have taken no position on that.
So what happens if that passes?
It would, I think it would take effect after the current commissioner has finished with his appointment. The next one is 1173. No, I'm sorry, that was 1173. 1175 would change the filing period to run for the board to a 90-day period rather than a week. I think we have a week now between a Tuesday and a something, but it would change it to a 90-day period prior to the election. House Bill 1193 would give boards an additional 30 days to fill a board position if a member passes away. House Bill 1218 would prevent schools from teaching certain issues about race, gender, politics, anything that is divisive. Our professional organizations have come out against that one, and our stance is that legislators should not tell us what we can and can't teach in our curriculum, especially when it comes to politics and race and gender. 1231 would reduce state funding to schools if they taught the 619 project curriculum, which has had some national headlines. There's been quite a bit of press on those last two statewide. House Bill 1232 would set requirements for computer science. There's a couple of competing bills on computer science. The governor has said that we will require that computer science as a graduation credit, as a graduation requirement. And so there's a couple of bills about how we will deal with that. One the governor is supporting, and another is kind of a competing bill to that. I figure one of those will get passed. 1237 would change the start date of school to the Monday before Labor Day, which would be a couple of weeks after we have historically been doing it. We are against that one. It would push everything way late. 1257 requires a district to employ one certified facilities director. We're okay with that. I think we have one. He's fully certified, right? Randall is. House Bill 1265 would apply violation of passing a school bus onto some private properties, which means we could actually prosecute in our parking lot if somebody passed a stop bus, because by current law you can't do that if it's on private property. House Bill 1332 makes changes to school election law and notice requirements. There's a lot of legal jargon in there, and it's about stuff on the county's end and how Bambi has to deal with the county on getting elections set up. 1368 limits the ability to set date for special elections for school elections, and it limits it to primary dates in May and then the big election date in November. We have come out against this the last few years. It's been proposed. We like the fact that we can have special elections at different times of the year to focus specifically on the school election. I know the cities like that ability as well, so that an election can be focused on one issue that's a local issue. Our House members think that they're going to get this passed. It was defeated last week. They're bringing it back this week, and we have put out information that we would like to see it go down again. And we'll see how that turns out. House Bill 1371 would create a tax credit for donations to scholarships for private schools. This is a bill basically to take money that corporations or individuals would be paying in taxes and divert that money into a scholarship program that would give kids scholarships to private schools, whether it be undergraduate or whether it be elementary, secondary, or post-secondary. House Bill 1403 would lower our income taxes in the state. 1431 would increase exemption level for used car taxes from $4,000 to $10,000. And the reason I'm saying these are ones that actually pertain to schools in some form or fashion, and we get a lot of personal property tax money back to the schools, and so the vehicle tax is one of those personal property taxes. Senate bills do. A lot of the taxes we get are from personal property.
Well, I know that, but I mean, that bill.
It would take that, right now, if you spend $4,000 or less on a used car, you don't have to pay sales tax on it. And actually, that's a sales tax. It probably doesn't, it's not personal property. But it would increase that 4,000 limit to 10,000, so anything under 10,000. Senate Bill 60 would remove some requirements for vision screening. That's a big deal to us. I don't know that we have a stance one way or the other, but we do a lot of vision screening. Senate Bill 72, that's not one of them I was going to mention. Senate Bill 107 is the other computer science requirements, so one of those two will pass, we believe. Senate Bill 126, 30, and 31 all deal with challenge scholarships or the governor's scholarship, and they're doing a lot of rewording in those two scholarships, and they're actually trying to make it where if you get a governor's scholarship, you can also get a challenge scholarship, which that's not been the case in the past.
Does the governor's scholarship not cover everything anymore?
It depends on what college they go to, and they can use the challenge scholarship. I think the governor's scholarship would cover tuition, room, and board at most colleges. I think there's the possibility of using the extra money for some additional expenses. Where was I? Senate Bill 140 requires the board to assess a student behavior assessment, do a behavior assessment on a student before disciplining them. I think this would only pertain in cases of expulsion. And I really don't know what that would look like. We've asked for more information on that. We do behavior assessments at the very lower grades for certain kids, but I think that would be cumbersome in our 10-day requirement to try to get done. Senate Bill 142 is one that we are really watching. It's the one that I've mentioned to you all before that I refer to as a hold harmless based on enrollment and next year's funding. It has been put out to the Bureau of Legislative Research for a financial impact study, and so it has not been voted on yet. Senate Bill 160 would require schools to teach the Holocaust. We already teach the Holocaust in our history courses, so that's an interesting one. Senate Bill 161 would allow teaching of Hunter Ed in schools, and so that it would count as a half credit of PE. Senate Bill 174, that's not one I was going to talk about.
So Hunter Ed would have to follow the PE standard?
That's a good question. It just says in the law that we could teach it, and it's a set course. Hunter Ed is actually a state course. It's an approved curriculum that they use for before you can get a hunting license. But it said that it would count as one half credit of PE. So,
Let's see how they fit in the standard.
Senate Bill 287 would make Marshall Islanders, resident aliens, and people with H-4 visas eligible for state scholarships. So anyway, those are some that I highlighted that I wanted to point out to you. And as I said, I will share this with you all so you all can look through it if you would like. And anything you see Travis's name beside, that's something that pertains to the board directly. So I will do that.
So the ones where you're getting tax credit for your scholarship for private schools, is the push there to pay for your kid's school and get a tax credit?
Yes. Now, this is like the fourth time that they've come back to us with something similar. The AAEA, our organization, has been against it each year. We've come out against it this year. We were actually having a Zoom meeting with the two sponsors this week, and they've put some things in there to try to appeal to public schools that people could give scholarships to public schools too, and some money would be funneled back to public schools. And it states in there that it's a 17-page law, so it's hard to tell you exactly what all's in it. But it would be focused on supposedly low-income students, students whose families make below 200% of the poverty line, which is kind of the same standard we use for pre-K. So in one way, they've put some things in there to try to make it attractive for public schools. Our stance is still that even if you make those scholarships available, that private schools don't offer free lunches, free meals, free breakfast, and they don't offer transportation. So we're not sure how that actually serves, especially maybe in the city, it might, but in rural Arkansas, I'm not sure that it does a whole lot.
Scholarships for K-12 education.
And there was something in, I said post-secondary a while ago, and I thought, I may be wrong on that. My memory I think in memory in that 17 pages somewhere that I saw something in there. But it may not have said that. It may be for K-12 specifically. Any other questions? Do what?
Who were the sponsors?
I don't have the sponsors written down on my spreadsheet. And I don't want to guess.
No.
Anyway, that concludes my report.
Well, all right. Now we shall move to any questions, any more questions for Jody before we move on? Amy Clark? You have the floor.
Okay, I'm just going to share a few curriculum updates with the board tonight. So we have parent-teacher conferences this week for grades 5 through high school. So those are Thursday and next Tuesday. And those will mainly be virtual conferences for parents. And each school is working with their teachers on setting those up already. Have set up many of those. We also have alpha testing occurring in our ESOL department. Dr. Leanne Carter has trained more than 40 of our staff members to help assist with that testing. And we will be testing roughly 830 students. She said every single day that number changes by 1 or 2. So at last count, we were around 830 of our students that will take that exam over the next couple of weeks, and that's by building. Southside is our only one that's completely finished, and she did report we had 100% assessed in that building. So that was a small celebration. Many more buildings to go, but we will get there. Virtual school is opening their enrollment today through February 26th for next school year. These will help us gather preliminary numbers about how many of our students and families are interested in attending our virtual.
Is it on? I'm not sure it's on. Now it is.
Now it is, so do I have to start over?
No, keep
Change my
going, Mindy.
time. Okay, so virtual is opening enrollment today through February 26th. And that is going to be publicized social media. They'll have robocalls, they'll have emails. Ms. Schlake has created flyers that will be going home in student folders. Hope to get something in the newspaper within the time frame, and just some regular communication out to all families so that we can gather numbers and help plan for that next school year.
Is there a limit that we're looking at?
No, not currently. You know, in K-6, we have one teacher per grade level, and so we're hoping to maintain that. And then in 7-12, because our numbers have fluctuated all year, our teachers have kind of teetered back and forth between on-campus teaching and virtual teaching, which will still have to occur in some fashion for us to be able to have a virtual academy. But student numbers, we're just going to see where we land with interest.
And we've had a tremendous decrease as we've gone through the year this year. And so we think we're at a fairly stable number now. And that I would anticipate that next year's numbers are going to be somewhat similar to what they are now.
We were about 310 last count, K-12. So Ms. Schlake also anticipates that's about where we will stay with interest level. The last piece is was sort of a celebration after Mr. Wiggins started saying that earlier. We had Tiffany Hansen, which is our Panther Health and Wellness Director, and Dr. Leanne Carter presented in the state Coordinated School Health Quarterly Meeting. That's a mouthful. And they presented about the Bright Futures piece, and it all had to do with the family and community engagement. And so they were highlighted during that meeting, which was at a state level, virtually, but they presented. And so wanted to make sure we celebrated them and let them know that they did a great job on that. And that concludes my report, except for questions.
I have one.
Yes.
On the virtual, you answered my question before, I asked you about how the parent-teacher deal is going to go. So on the virtual parent-teacher conference, y'all track those numbers of how many students
Attend.
talk to their teacher or anything? Do y'all track that?
So, well, each teacher keeps like not a sign-in, but a checklist of how many students or families that they meet with. And then principals would know those overall numbers.
Would it be too much to ask for you to report to us next month on the percentage of how that went?
Sure.
I'm just, if it's too big a deal, so.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think it's a big deal at all. I
I'd
think
be
that would
kinda
be
curious
something we
to
could
know
easily
how-
gather.
How that goes.
My remembrance from fall semester was at the secondary level, we had far greater numbers of parents checking with teachers virtually than we have had in the past on site.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
I don't know, elementary is it's a different animal, and so that they have a lot of participation usually at parent-teacher conferences, but secondary, the first reports I got were that they had a higher percentage at the high school for sure.
Can you do that?
Yes, certainly can. We will have numbers.
Kind of a technology question, but do we know what percent, or have we been able to pinpoint who is able to, or isn't able to get on electronically Zoom meetings with families, or
Mr. Patrick?
you know what percentage
We are
just
less than 5% of our families don't have access to some form of device or internet. And for those families, for virtual or for remote reasons, we have hotspots through the state program that we have issued out. So we are actually in a much better situation than many districts around the state in their access to the internet. And we try to, well, pretty much when we hand out our hotspot devices, we're right at 99% of our students have some way of connecting to the internet.
So they could do that for the parent teacher too.
Yes.
in those locations.
Yes.
I was just trying.
Any more questions? Okay, we will gather numbers for the next board report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Patrick.
Okay, first thing I want to talk about real quick is I want to report on the renovation, or not renovation, but repair at intermediate school. We finally got the clearance from the insurance company that they agreed that the bid that we had received was proper and well within the bounds of the scope of work. And so they signed off on us, allowing us to sign that contract, Mr. Wiggins, per your allowing him to do so, entered into that agreement with Ellingson Contractors last week. They actually have started some preliminary stuff in there this week, and tomorrow the mason will be on the inside of the building dismantling the brick that they've got to, or the block that they've got to take out. Then they'll put that in. They think that'll take about a day and a half, and then it'll have to sit for about 14 days before we can put the primer on it, so we can then paint it after that. In the meantime, they are trying to get our exterior brick in so that it matches the rest of the building. And once they have that on site, then we will take down the exterior wall and get that. We plan on the plan is to be done in 6 to 8 weeks, depending on weather and brick availability, as soon as we can get that in and all. Once we have all the supplies and the weather's good, it'll go really quick. It's just a matter of getting everything there that we need to do. So real excited that we are getting started on the inside and get that hole sealed up properly, at least from the inside. And then we'll get that outside taken care of. So real pleased about that. Any questions on that project?
I think you said that they built some sort of little wall.
So on the inside, we basically built a room around the area, and then it has it goes up about 10 feet. It's 10 feet. Goes up all the way around, has a door where the construction crew can come in and out. But then also we've taken plastic sheeting and went all the way up so that when we start tearing all that down and create all that dust, that it doesn't get out into the main gym, because we're still having class in that area. So the dismantling of that block starting in the morning. We've told them they had to wait till after 10 because it's going to be really loud. And our band uses that at first thing in the morning. So we're making them not start until band class is over with. The PE teachers have felt like the noise would not be an issue for them, but band obviously would cause some issues. So they're going to wait. And after that, but like I said, that's a day and a half, and they think that'll be done. So we feel pretty confident we're not going to have to displace our students at all.
No issue with integrity of the building as they start taking out bricks.
No, ma'am. We have the engineer's report, and he felt we were very fortunate that it missed one of the weight-bearing beams by about 2 feet. It might have been a different story if we'd had that, and if that was the case, we would have already shut the building down totally. Any other questions about that? The one other thing I did want to mention to you is that a few weeks ago we had our COVID-19 vaccination clinic we vaccinated 303 of our district employees who decided they wanted the vaccine. There were a few that were able to get the vaccine other places, so they didn't participate, but they're still vaccinated or received the first vaccination. And then we had a few that were in quarantine and unfortunately could not get that. This Friday is round 2 for the second shot, and we'll do that during the day from between 11 and 1:30. We've set out certain times based on their last name when they can come in, and we will come in and we will, working with the hospital, we'll have everybody else come back in, or all 303 people can come back and get their other vaccine and all. So really excited about getting that done. We hope and pray that this will greatly reduce the risk for our faculty, for those who've gotten vaccinated and all.
So on the vaccinations, that's certified, non-certified?
That's any school employee or somebody. We even reached out to our contract vendors based on the governor's proclamation. Anybody that works in the school at all, works with the school, was allowed to do that. So we reached out and we had some of our night cleaning crew take advantage of it. We've had some of our contract people through our special ed department that were able to take advantage of it. And so substitutes were able to take advantage of it. So basically anybody that's affiliated with a school district had an opportunity to get that vaccine. Now, the one thing is working with the hospital, we were very specific on when we could do that, and it had to be done on certain times and days because the hospital wanted to make sure, and we did too, that we didn't waste any doses. So once they thaw out that vaccine and draw it up, once they put it in that syringe, it's only good for 6 hours and it has to be discarded. Well, I'm very proud that we were able to give out, we did not waste a single dose in the first clinic, and our plan is to not waste any doses in the second clinic. So we put out the schedule early enough so that our people could know when they had to be there and all.
So everybody that wanted to get the vaccine on round 1 has received.
Yes, sir.
And now we're going round 2.
With a small exception, there were a few people who were in quarantine or were positive for COVID and were in isolation when we gave the first vaccine, so they were not able to. But once they've gotten out, then they can make arrangements through a pharmacy or another place that's giving that, and they can go based on the fact that they work in a school district, they qualify to go get that done, so they can go get that scheduled on their own. But it won't be, we just don't have a makeup clinic scheduled through the school district. And by signing up to take the first vaccine, they agreed, knowing ahead of time when the second was going to be given this Friday, they agreed to come back and get it, the second dose.
And I'd like to commend our hospital for partnering with us on that. We were actually one of the few school districts in Northwest Arkansas for sure, and around the state that were able to give vaccines to every person that wanted one from our faculty on one day in one clinic. And so the partnership with the hospital has been great. They have been very good to work with, and we were fortunate to be able to work that out. I'd also like to say that not only Shane organized it, and Lori, our nurse supervisor, but also all of our nurses that gave shots that day. And then we had multiple administrators from central office that worked at the clinic that day and kind of gave directions. And so it was a very well organized event, and I hope that our staff are grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for the hospital partnering with us on it.
And most school districts just farm that out to pharmacy companies or businesses and let them deal with it. And we were fortunate because the week of the first clinic across the state, all vaccination, the numbers got cut what they thought they were gonna have. We were fortunate that we were able to maintain enough vaccine. The hospital maintained enough vaccine for us that we were able to cover everybody that wanted one in our school district. There were lots of school districts that did not even come close. Bentonville only got less than 500 vaccinations for their whole school district. Springdale lost a third of their vaccinations. So we were fortunate, and the hospital has been very gracious in working with us in trying to take care of our employees. And I also want to commend our nurses. They worked their selves to a tizzy giving shots that day. And I really do appreciate them and the hospital both.
Outstanding work by everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
That should have been a celebration.
It should have been.
And it is a celebration.
Next month after the
Great
second.
job. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions that would pertain to me? All right. Thank you very much.
I want to reiterate again what I just said about that. You know, this is a big deal. And whether you want the shot or not, it's not the point. The point is the availability. And y'all have gone way far and above partnering with the hospital. And that is something that we should really celebrate and be proud of. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Good work. Awesome. All right. Now that I've said my piece, we'll move on to the action item. First would be to approve the January financials that we received electronically. Ms. Terry?
Hi, I am happy to report that the audit field work has been completed this week. This audit this year was a lot different, just like all of our classroom teachers are doing things electronically. We did ours audit basically electronically, which was a little odd. But they seemed pleased with how quickly it got done. They're expected it to get reviewed in the next 10 days. Doesn't mean we'll get our report any sooner than April, but they are officially finished. So that's relief to me. Looking at our financial statements, we're 59% of the way through the school year, which seems unbelievable. But believe it. But what I want to focus on tonight is if you turn to your revenue page, which is your second page, I would like to point out that we have received our first payment of growth funds. And if you see, we received $91,708. That is considerably less than what we have been receiving in prior years. Last year at this time, we had received about $270,000. In 2018, we received $206,000. 2017, we received $240,000. So I don't expect, depending on what this law that's going in, if we hold harmless or whatever. Remember, this is based on average daily membership. So what that is they take how many students are attending school every day and divide it by the number of days in a quarter. I mean, it's just an average, how many people were there every day. And they compare that to previous quarters. This quarter in particular that we got money for is actually comparing our last quarter of last year to the previous 3-quarter average. So we're getting money based off of last year's 4th quarter. When I go to calculate what we would get off this year's 1st quarter, we're in the negative, which means a declining balance. So that piece of legislation is very dear to me, as it is to Mr. Wiggins. We're watching that funding very closely. So I just wanted you all to be somewhat aware of what COVID and, things that are happening with our kids and our families. And I know you guys are dealing with it every day, but we see it on the finance side too. I also want to point out that on our local revenue, at this time last year and at this time this year, we are 70% of the way through the projected income. But as you look at the numbers, we're actually $573,000 ahead of the amount of money we had collected by this time last year. And that looks funny, and you're like, how can you have $500,000 more dollars this year than last year and our percentages stay the same? Well, it's because we projected to get more income this year. So our projections seem to be on target like they were with last year. I really don't have anything else exciting to report unless you all have some questions.
Any questions?
No. I'll move to accept the January financial report.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Well, that,
Thank you for watching that, Terry.
You're
yeah.
welcome.
Bring us to executive session, I guess, for the purpose of resignations and also. So we shall, excuse us. Brief.
We probably need to go down to the bigger room again. Very rated under
We didn't talk, right? Nobody would ask questions.
call ourselves back into open session and to item C, renewal of assistant superintendent contracts.
So we have Amy Carter and Shane Patrick, who are both assistant superintendents. And I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to kind of talk about some of the things they've done this year. Amy has led us into a new mathematics curriculum, K-10, and that's illustrative math curriculum, and new language arts curriculum, K through 5, that's CKLA curriculum. And that transition was planned last spring. Took on some complications when we started the year with COVID and all the issues we had to prepare for. Some of those being new educational technology tools that we had to provide professional development for at the beginning of the year, which Amy kind of coordinated. She also has worked through learning plans for remote on-site instruction remediation for students with learning gaps from last spring. We have a team of people that have worked with her on those, all of our principals and our central office and central office 2 staff. She has helped rush the coordination of development of our virtual academy last spring and last summer, and then made revisions along the way when things weren't going as smoothly as we had hoped. I appreciate Amy's positive outlook, can-do spirit, and no-nonsense approach to things. She is focused on results, and I'm looking forward to a more normal year next year, where we can deal with a curriculum that our teachers are a year into and somewhat familiar with, and prepare them really well this summer to take off next year and fly with our new curriculum. Shane Patrick, Director of Operations, has been an interesting year for him as well. Last spring and summer, he led our coordination of food service and transportation to feed kids while we were not in school. And then as we were shut down throughout the summer, we continued to feed kids, and he coordinated that with transportation and food service departments. He then kind of spearheaded our safe and secure return to school in August as we worked through the Ready for Learning plan and all the facilities issues that we needed to deal with to get ready. He's been our point of contact this year for the Arkansas Department of Health and the Department of Education, which means that he had to establish procedures for identifying positive cases and probable close contacts within our schools, and then track those students and those staff members as they were quarantined and out on COVID leave. He's worked very closely with Terry on all of those absences and making sure staff got paid through the various COVID leave provisions that have been given to us. He's coordinated the plan for internet coverage in our community and the disbursement of Wi-Fi hotspots to those who didn't have coverage. Worked with me when we've had to have school closures this year, and that's in addition to all those normal duties with facilities and transportation and maintenance and so forth. I appreciate both of them. They've both done a very, very good job this year, and I'm not sure that I would have survived without both of them this year. And it's not just them. We have great supervisors and district level staff that work with them on a daily basis and make things run smooth in our district, and I appreciate all of them. I would like to recommend that we renew our assistant superintendent contracts for next year.
A motion to renew the assistant superintendent contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Now we'll go to item B and have some resignations.
We have 4 resignations tonight. Cecil Nichols, high school history teacher. Sue Brookshire, Southside ESOL teacher. Brittany Mathias, Southside ESOL teacher. Nancy Nicholson, high school SPED teacher. 3 of these are retirements from teaching, and 1, I believe, is moving out of the community. I would recommend that we accept these resignations.
I move that we accept these 4 resignations.
Second.
This is that for the end of the year?
Yes, I'm sorry, for the end of this school year.
School.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Our staff? None?
We have athletic director that we're going to move. I told you it was going to be in the other category, but we're going to do it here.
About that E, all right?
We're going to
On
move
these
it up to the,
resignations, let me just ask a question.
yes.
Are we going to do any kind of celebrations for these folks? Is COVID stopped being able to?
Usually if it's teachers, they are celebrated in their buildings. I have not heard, we're still a ways away from the end of school, but I'm sure we will do something. We got approval to have meetings like this again, under a blanket authorization, as long as we agreed to certain assurances. And we've sent the documents in to do that, so we can have teachers' meetings again in person. And so I think there might be some ways to do some of that. So we are on E, is that correct? Okay. As we had told you earlier, Ken Harriman had turned in his resignation for the end of the year as our athletic director. So we opened up our athletic director's job, had a lot of interest. We had 28 different applicants for the job, a lot of them very qualified for the position. And we narrowed that down to 5 applicants who we interviewed. And we did the first round of interviews via Zoom. And the committee was Shane Patrick, Amy Carter, Rob Lindley, Dennis Yoakum, and Randall Bollinger. And I sat in on those interviews as well. After the 5 Zoom interviews, we brought 2 of those applicants on site with their spouse to visit with us a little bit more informally. And this evening, I am happy to recommend Jeff Williams to be our next athletic director. He is currently the high school football coach at Pea Ridge. Prior to this year, he had served 15 years at Fort Smith Southside as head football coach and the Southside High School athletic coordinator. He has a lot of accolades in his past. He's won a state football title, been coach of the year, has served on numerous boards of directors and worked with AAA, has a vast network of colleagues and professional friends across the state, and I think he will serve us well in this position. So I recommend that we hire Jeff Williams as AD.
Motion to hire Jeff Williams as athletic director.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, sick leave?
Yes, sir. We have 2 emergency sick leave requests. The requests are in your packet. I would recommend that you approve the emergency sick leave request for Julie Reynolds and Jill Hartman.
I move that we approve these 2 emergency sick leave requests.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, student transfers in,
None at this time.
student transfers out.
We have 1 student transfer out, Remington Walters, age 5, to begin next school year. Recommend that we approve that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that brings us to other business.
I'm going to run through some transfers and resignations and hires for the classified staff real quick, and then I will turn it over to Kelly for the district calendar action item. We have classified transfers. Lisa Hendrickson is going from a special education paraprofessional to a regular paraprofessional at Northside. Classified resignations, 4 of them. Ashley Pound, Northside cafeteria monitor. Carrie Lindsay, transportation special needs bus aide. Jasmine Pacheco, Southside special ed aide. Josie Mounts, food service. And then a classified hire, Randall Fleming, middle school special ed paraprofessional. And those are just for your information. And I will turn the floor over to Kelly Sweebeck to present a calendar for your approval for next year.
Good evening. As usual, There are parameters for every calendar, school calendar. We have to have 178 student days, 2 parent-teacher conference days, and 10 PD days built into every calendar. A quarter has to have at least 40 days, no more than 50, and we have to build in 5 inclement weather days. Now, typically in the past, we've built in as many as 10 with some flexibility that we have through Department of Education now with AMI days. We're building in just 5 at this point. But our process has always been to typically start with the calendar from the previous year. Nobody liked the calendar this year, I can tell you that, because our start date was pushed back. So we didn't start there. We started with the calendar that you guys actually approved this time last year. And what we've brought forth is really very similar to that calendar. In advance of actually putting calendars out, we've gathered input from the Classified PPC Committee and the Personnel Policies Committee. Some of the comments that they offered, principals like PD days throughout the year, professional development days throughout the year, at least 1 or 2. I had multiple comments on teachers wanting a professional development day when they come back from Christmas. That's the start of a new semester. It's good to get that one day in there to review curriculum, to, if your students change at all, to look at those students and at their needs. And we didn't get that this year due to the change in the calendar due to our change in start date. We had a request from teachers for an additional flex day. We had 2 built in the options that we were working on, and they really wanted 3. As Mr. Wiggins mentioned, we do have new math curriculum, K-10. We have new ELA curriculum, K-5, and that's a lot, particularly on our lower elementary teachers. 2 new curriculums, COVID, everything else, it's a lot. And so they spend a lot of time in professional development to learn, how to better use those resources. So they really wanted 3 flex days. So we did add a flex day to those options. So we presented 4 options, a calendar A, B, C, and D, and both PPC and classified PPC prefer calendar A. And I'm glad to answer any questions, but I do have Lori Boyd here from our Certified Personnel Policies Committee and Julie Kelly from our Classified Personnel Policies Committee to also make the recommendation for calendar A.
Question on flex days, was that reflected in here? Or?
Yes, sir. They are on, the flex days are on, and it may be hard to see on a black and white copy. October 15th is at the end of the first 9 weeks. There's a flex day. February 11th and then March 18th. And that one before spring break, there were lots of people who said, we really like that day there. So we've left it there as well.
So what does a flex day mean exactly?
So a flex day is when they do professional development on non-contract time, they accumulate flex hours. So our first flex day for this year is Friday. And so for every staff member that's eligible for flex, which is anybody not on a 240-day contract, so I'm not eligible, Mr. Wiggins isn't eligible, because we work all the time, there's not much non-contract time. So anyway, if they go to professional development in the summer, like this year we had teachers who attended RISE training and went to illustrative math training or Quest training. When they're not on contract, we bank that time. And then they get days off during the year. So they get on those specified days. So this Friday is our first one, and then March 19th is our second one this year. So for 3 days next year, it would be that October, February, and March. So we already have co-op offerings in the summer that are being specially designed for our teachers. We've had math specialists in our buildings who are building PD around what they're seeing our kids and our teachers need. So that will be something that, a lot of our teachers will go to in the summer, if they're math, obviously.
If they don't have those hours, then they work that day, and we provide professional development on site for them.
So it's a no classroom day.
Right. It's a non-student day.
Yeah, that's kind of,
The training.
that's where I was going with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
but they all took it off, yeah.
Including virtual? No.
Yes.
Right.
Now, virtual students can still work, of course, but your teachers are
Remote,
like you're on
I
site.
guess.
Kelly, is that October 14th, is that a PD day?
October 14th is a parent-teacher conference day for elementary.
Alright.
It's also the first day of the second quarter, but I couldn't shade it both
Yeah,
blue and
right.
green, or purple and green, I think.
So
So
I'm trying to
it's-
find the 10th PD day.
There's 6 before school.
Right, and then
Uh,
the
The 3 flex days in January 3rd.
January. Oh, okay.
The first day back from Christmas. Another consideration, December 17th is the end of the second quarter. And it does seem a little early, and when we pulled calendars from different districts, some districts were ending their quarter then, some went to like the 22nd. We did hear from teachers that having that extra weekend around Christmas time, it just feels different. You're still getting, I mean, either way, they would have had 2 solid weeks off, but having that extra kind of third weekend just makes it feel different. And so we went ahead and, because the days would actually work out, our first semester is shorter than our second, which is not unusual. But we could go to the 17th, and so that's what they prefer.
Looks like a good calendar.
Any other questions that I can answer? Okay, I'm gonna let them make their recommendations. You can just be where you are.
I'll say, yeah, the PPC district definitely recommends that we adopt the calendar A for the next school year, and for a lot of the reasons that Kelly said. I wasn't able to be at that meeting due to a death in the family, but Kelly spearheaded that meeting for me, and she said the discussion was minimal, so they were able to reach an agreement pretty quickly. Calendar A.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Love the week at Thanksgiving too. So.
Yes. That was an added, that was something they wanted as well.
Yeah, right. That's what we tried last year.
It's good.
Need a motion? I move that we accept calendar option A for the 2021-22 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Any other business, sir?
No, sir.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for your work.
Opposed? So, meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
No, I will not.
Just got one, don't we?
Last time we did that, I turned it off.
Not much the same.
So,
Just one?
oh, just.